No one raised their voice, no one made a scene, and yet within minutes security was called. The offense: a black woman in a first-class boarding area at West Haven International Airport, surrounded by the scent of expensive cologne, the rustle of high-end suits, and a glint of designer luggage. A single woman in a light gray sweater walked quietly through the first-class corridor. She wheeled a small navy suitcase behind her, head lowered slightly, posture reserved. One by one, the stares began, curious, confused, then suspicious. No one said a word, but the message was loud enough. A nearby employee leaned toward her colleague with a whisper. A manager squinted and tapped their tablet. And somewhere near the edge of the room, a silent alarm was triggered. She knew. Maybe not the full extent, maybe not the precise moment suspicion turned into accusation, but she knew. And still she stood in place. That was all it took. 2 uniformed security officers entered within moments, their eyes scanned, fixated. Their fingers rested just a little too tightly on their radios. They walked toward her, not in haste but with a rigid caution reserved for confrontation. But there was something no one around her knew, something none of the supervisors, agents, or business travelers could possibly have anticipated. The moment she reached in her coat and pulled out her phone, everything began to shift. This wasn't just a moment about race. It was a reckoning. The first-class boarding zone had its own rhythm, one that hummed with quiet exclusivity. It wasn't just access, it was entitlement. Entitlement dressed in cashmere and wrapped in noise-canceling headphones. And into that rhythm walked Clarissa Hale. She stood calmly in the priority access line. One hand gripped her phone displaying a digital boarding pass. The other held the handle of her carry-on. She wore a simple gray turtleneck, slacks, and soft black flats. Her hair was pulled into a low, neat bun. No novelties, no external markers of wealth. That simplicity, in this context, made her conspicuous, not for what she did, but for who they believed she wasn't. Behind the podium stood Meredith Langford, senior boarding supervisor. Her expression was sculpted from years of superiority, a mix of hardened professionalism and subtle disdain. Meredith's eyes slid past the polished shoes and designer duffels until they landed on Clarissa. The frown was almost imperceptible, almost. Nothing about Clarissa's appearance screamed problem, and yet everything about her presence irritated Meredith. Without pause, Meredith pressed a button on her walkie unit. For possible Ms. Route, end of priority line, female, gray sweater. Confirm boarding group. The message was delivered like an order about a lost bag, not a person. Clarissa hadn't spoken. She hadn't stepped out of line. But Meredith already saw her as a deviation from order, a potential risk to comfort. Clarissa stepped forward. Her shoes tapped softly on the polished marble at the screening desk. Meredith barely looked up. "Economy check-in is over there," she said flatly, not bothering to scan the boarding pass Clarissa presented. Clarissa raised her chin a notch. "I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." Their eyes met. Meredith blinked but didn't apologize. Instead, she tilted her head toward a nearby associate and made a subtle gesture. "Deal with her." The young associate, visibly nervous, stepped forward to intervene. But Clarissa hadn't moved. She remained where she stood, silently watching. Meredith leaned slightly toward her subordinate and murmured just loud enough. "Reward upgrade. Think to see. Mean she belongs." There were no gasps, no protests, just the kind of stillness that makes everything sharper. What Meredith didn't know, what almost no one in that terminal could have known, was that the boarding pass Clarissa held bore an embedded code only issued by the top echelon of the Avanova Consortium, the parent overseeing Grand Apex Airlines. And the signature stamped into the barcode belonged to the consortium's Strategic Oversight Division. Clarissa Hale had authorized the very merger keeping Grand Apex afloat. And yet here she was, being profiled and questioned like a lost traveler who'd wandered in from the wrong entrance. Security escorted her to a small private room. Inside, sterile light, a metal table and 2 chairs. The first officer flipped open a notepad. Full name: Curry Sahal. Destination: Seattle. Purpose of travel: Executive Internal Review. Strategic Assessment. Her voice was calm, controlled. Still, the officer's tone tightened. "You're traveling on business? Dress like that." Clarissa didn't blink. "Are you asking if professionalism depends on apparel?" No response. The second officer, from Allegan, rummaging through Clarissa's bag, inside a slim laptop, a moleskine notebook, and a sealed envelope with a wax insignia. "What's this?" "Work documents." "May we open it?" Clarissa replied evenly. Only with a court order. That froze the air. The male officer leaned back. The woman quietly placed the envelope back. If this is a standard screening, log it. If it's not, I want documentation. No threats. Just clarity. Across the terminal, Meredith Langford sat watching the monitor, reclined in a leather chair, a smirk playing on her lips. What she didn't see was the hidden overhead surveillance camera capturing not just the room, but her. Clarissa returned to the gate minutes later. No fanfare. No apologies. Just a slip of paper. Screen complete. No action required. She walked forward with the same posture, the same grace. Meredith glanced at her, said nothing. Clarissa scanned into the cabin, first class, seat C2A. Soft light. Cream leather. Crystal water glasses. She sat down in silence. Beside her in 2B, a silver-haired man in a pressed charcoal suit, reading the Wall Street Journal. He looked over. Nothing, just a measured glance. Clarissa adjusted her tray and closed her eyes briefly. Then came Kelly Langford, chief flight attendant, cousin to Meredith. Same narrowed eyes, same clipped tone. She distributed warm towels down the aisle. When she reached row 2, she skipped Clarissa, no towel, no water. Clarissa didn't react. She simply adjusted the angle of her seat. The man beside her smirked. Guess money buys seats for just about anyone these days. Clarissa didn't flinch. She turned her head slowly. Do you think that's all it takes? He didn't answer. She added quietly, if it were that easy, don't you think I'd stop needing to prove myself just to sit down? No response. Kelly returned minutes later. We need you to relocate to the rear for weight distribution. Clarissa met her eyes. Am I heavier than the other passengers? Kelly hesitated. It's standard protocol. Clarissa nodded. And this standard applies only to me? No reply. The air thickened. Clarissa reached calmly into her bag, pulled out her phone, tapped one button. Internal app. One message. Trial complete. Code submitted. Send. Kelly didn't understand, but something shifted. Clarissa placed her phone back, folded her hands, and said softly, if this airline is unbalanced, perhaps the issue isn't the passengers. Silence. 1,000 miles away, in a secure operations room at Avinova HQ, a signal decrypted. Level 3. Trial completed. Begin personnel audit. No one on board knew, but the flight had already changed course. When the plane landed, a representative waited. Ms. Hale, there's a procedural matter requiring your presence. No handcuffs. No accusations. Just authority. Clarissa followed. A room awaited. Walnut table. For chairs. Representatives from Grand Apex Airlines, a federal observer, and Kelly Langford. On the table, a report titled Incident, Passenger Noncompliance. Clarissa opened her bag, placed a white envelope on the table, broke the seal, unfolded one page. Her voice was calm, resolute. Carrie Sahal. Internal Auditor, Strategic Oversight Division, Avianova Consortium. Code Clearance Level, Executive. Purpose of Travel, Covert Evaluation of Frontline Passenger Protocol. Pause. The entire encounter from boarding gate to flight seat was recorded via parallel network under Compliance Directive 9B. She turned the phone toward the Federal Observer. Supervisor Langford's conduct. The verbal remarks. The forced relocation request. All documented. Kelly sat frozen. No one interrupted. Clarissa continued. This airline was under final review for financial inclusion in our consolidation program. That review is now suspended. The Grand Apex rep began. We deeply regret. Clarissa raised a hand. This isn't about regret. It's about accountability. Within the hour, an internal memo was dispatched. Merger suspended. Ethics review failed. Meredith Langford, suspended. Kelly Langford, demoted, barred from first-class duty. Every staffer involved. Mandated retraining under a new program authored by Clarissa herself. She gave no press interview. Filed no lawsuit. Just one internal message, posted to the airline's bulletin board. I'm not asking for an apology. I'm asking that this never happen to the next person. 2 weeks later, Clarissa passed through the same terminal. This time unnoticed. No committas. No whispers. Until she saw her, Meredith Langford. No badge. No bulk. Just a wrinkled shirt, filing papers at the help desk. Clarissa paused. Not for revenge. Not for triumph. Just one look. Meredith looked up. She said nothing. Clarissa simply said, You were right. I don't look like someone who usually sits in first class. I came to see if anyone here still remembers how to act like a human being. Then she turned and walked away. She didn't need a stage or applause. She just made sure no one else had to fight the same quiet battle alone.